faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock tick faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock tick 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 tick. The clock tick 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 faster. Living off borrowed time. The clock 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 tick faster.
Hello, everyone. It's another intro by Caleb this week. Your host for this week's Living Off Borrowed Time podcast. Patrick is not here once again, but this is a very special episode because I've got a friend of mine on here, Tristan, aka Dynamic Desperado on RYM. We're going to be talking about some sports. We're going to do a general episode this week. We haven't done a general episode in a long time, and I'm looking forward to it because I feel like this is kind of like our live music episode from a few months ago, where we had talking about how has live music now changed, and now we're not going to have live music for a long time because of the dystopian coronavirus pandemic. So now we've got we're getting live sports back. That's kind of why I'm bringing this up, but we've got no fans in attendance at all these games, and fans are a big part of sports, obviously, as they are a big part of any live entertainment. But the sports leagues are going on. Coronavirus is still ravaging its way across North America, specifically the United States, because as you know, we can't do anything right.
Nope.
Sports have been back in Europe and some other countries for months now, and they've been doing it safely, doing it well. But here, we've got 4 main professional sports leagues in America, plus a few others that are coming back, and there's so far varying levels of success in how each of these leagues are handling it. But before we get into that, Tristan, I want to ask you, do you think it's smart for sports, at least in this country, to be coming back now that we're still in the second wave of the coronavirus in North America?
Well, I mean, it depends what they want to do and depends how they isolate themselves. As we'll get into, 2 of the major sports leagues have decided not to isolate themselves, and one of them has started playing with very varying levels of success depending on where they're playing. And one has decided not to isolate at all, and they might even think about opening back up to fans, and they all have to wear face masks in attendance. And anything that involves fans is too much of a liability right now. Even a year out from now, it'd be like really risky to do it, because I don't even know if I have a vaccine device by that point. I'm not even sure that public crowds or public events will go on for at least another year or two, because this has changed the entire landscape of how public events work. And to sort of just say, oh, we're going to have fans in attendance and we're going to just throw face masks on them, can reduce the risk. But if you have stadiums that hold up to like 10,000 people, how is that not a huge concern? Especially if all the food and entertainment there. I just can't see it working in terms of fans. If you had it televised within a bubble and all the athletes were able to isolate themselves in sort of like a couple major areas that were largely unaffected. So if they moved to Montana for no reason, or they went up North Canada, then they would probably be okay in terms of not catching the coronavirus. But you have to really isolate yourselves in order to make this work.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you brought up the best point. Like, some of these leagues probably, I mean, I know we'll get into it later, but the NBA moved themselves, and they're going to be locating in Orlando, and ESPN's and Disney's like Wide World of Sports complex,
Right.
which is ordinarily a pretty cool setting. They have like some exhibition games there sometimes. Like it's a very like summer league vibe. It gives you like that kind of like exhibition, carefree vibe. But this is not a normal setting. You're moving to Florida, which has been one of the states that's botched the response to the coronavirus the most in the United States, which says something considering the amount of mishandling that has gone on since the pandemic started. Versus if you move somewhere like Montana, North Dakota, Idaho, etc., where there's just no fucking people there,
Yeah.
then you could really, you could really make this thing work. But even in a bubble, there's still going to be exceptions. So I think you bring up a great point. And going forward with fans, I mean, we talked about this in the live music episode. To refer back to that, like, who knows when fans are going to come back in these sporting events and all. I mean, I am a, big sports fan, have been since I was a young kid. I like going to live sports. I haven't been to too many live sporting events depending on the sport, but I've been in a lot of baseball games, a bunch of basketball games. Obviously have covered them for years just as being a journalist. But, I think it's interesting that, like, I'd be scared to go cover a sporting event right now with no fans, much less be a fan in 6 months or a year or even 18 months and go back into these stadiums where, I mean, you said 10,000, and that's true for a lot of like basketball stadiums and stuff, but you talk about football stadiums. I mean,
Football stadiums are up to like 100,000 sometimes, aren't they?
right. I mean, well, college football especially, they're college football stadiums, there are a bunch of them that clear 80, 90K. The biggest ones in the country, you can fit like 112,000 people in, and you're packed in, there. Now, that won't happen this year, but even next year, 112,000 people packed in. If we don't have like, if we don't have a vaccine that's going through multiple different cycles in terms of like, we know what the side effects are and all this and all that, and it's actually effective. It's like an actual flu shot, which the likelihood of getting that in 14 months is pretty slim, right?
The likelihood of getting it within 5 years might be pretty slim too.
Right. It's a lot longer than just in the next year or two.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm not. I think everyone is trying. I think everyone is trying to be a public health expert now these days, with just everything going on. But I think part of eliminating a global pandemic has been to take the proper steps and not have fans in attendance, and we've seen that in other in other countries. I mean, you're obviously from Canada. You guys have been very strict about that.
Yeah.
We talked just. I mean, a few weeks ago we had Brent, aka Trout Mask, on the pod. Shout out to him, and he was talking about how everyone in Canada has been very militant and following all the correct procedures and social distancing and not exercising common sense essentially.
Relatively, yeah. Where is he from?
He told us, and I'm blanking on where he's from. I want to say he's from like, he's not from like the Toronto area. He's closer to like the middle, I think. Well, no, he's 3 hours. He's 3 hours behind, so he's got to be Western Canada.
Right. So the Western Canada's done really well in terms of that. Ontario has as well, but not so much. However, today we did record the first cases as of a recording on July 29th. We did record the first daily new cases being under 100 today. So congrats.
That's big news.
We got them.
How is the perception about public health and stuff in Canada? Because obviously, as you know, just by following North American media, the United States is not exactly crushing it when it comes to anything in relation to public health, and I think sports will play a part into that.
Yep. Canada's been pretty diligent in following most of it. I think it's sort of like, because Canadians are definitely a lot less more social than the Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was like a huge anti-mask movement or a coronavirus is a hoax, then you wouldn't necessarily hear about it, because Canadian people are like, they're not quite as reserved as like, say, like people from like the Norways of the world or like the Slavic countries, but like they're pretty reserved. So like I think people are just following it okay because they just want it to be over. I think there has been some lapses of people kind of going outside and hanging with friends, but every daily case now in Canada is like, every province is under 200 cases a day. So the likelihood of you getting it is slimmer than it used to be. You should still exercise caution, but I think people are wearing masks pretty well. And we opened back up businesses, and I'm pretty sure most businesses require you to wear masks as you enter in the store or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've done that over here, but obviously, not in all places. And obviously, there are plenty of people who have taken masks and safety precautions and washing your hands to be optional. So,
right. Well, when you have a president that doesn't really take it that seriously, then like it definitely reflects on the rest of the nation too.
It definitely does. Even for a nation as intelligent as America.
Oh, very smart, yeah.
Very smart. We are essentially the subreddit r/I am very smart.
How do you even walk without that big brain, the fucking big brain in your head? You just giant ass heads.
Our brain, we're basically just like Beavis and Butthead ass like heads. Yeah. Essentially, we just walk. We hit our heads on the doors all the time.
You're like the other country's knocking the door. It's like, where do you work out? In the United States, always answers at the library, and then they walk out with their giant ass forehead. It's very smart.
Well, speaking of working out, we've opened up gyms, so plenty of places to get the coronavirus while you're doing your squats.
I gotta rep 300s a day. Fuck the corona.
Fuck the corona, man. No, I like gyms, but I am not going near a gym for years. I'm telling you.
No.
But yeah. I guess and as it relates to the perception, of sports. Sports coming back, I think this soon was inevitable because there's been such a push for that, because something like this has never happened before, where there's been, all major sports leagues, across the world, but really here, because America is still the sports epicenter of the world in terms of revenue and dollars and all that. I think the only leagues that really come close is probably, English Premier League and, European football, and maybe, I'm trying to think of some other sports that could even compare, but in terms of the revenue and the dollars, tennis probably overseas, but that's really...
wrestling, depending on how much you get paid for pay-per-view, wrestling or boxing.
True. I mean, MMA is a big international sport, but really most of the big events are in North America.
That's right, yeah.
As well. So even still, like, MMA was put on hold for a bit. They ended up just, having it in other places because Dana White was like, the fuck is this virus? And he's like, we're just going to fight, and we're going to have our commentators there, and Joe Rogan's going to sit 6 feet away from, these other, Daniel Cormier. So that's how that's going to work.
Did they buy a private island after all, or like what's the deal with the wrestling?
Oh, that's a good question. I am not as up to date on wrestling and combat sports as I should be. I know didn't they I thought they were gonna go to South America or something to do an event. I know, because I know MMA's done stuff in South America and shit, and they've gone way overseas, to New Zealand or whatever, and just random places. But I don't know about the private island thing. Although if there's anyone that would buy a private island, it would be Dana White or Vince McMahon, if we're talking that stuff. But I don't know about that's something we probably have to ask other people around us who know more about wrestling than we do.
Right, yeah.
But they would know. I wouldn't put it past any ownership group in any sport to do whatever they can to get these sports running. But I do think sports coming back was inevitable because of the television too. I mean,
Yeah, because a lot of them have television rights that have to be
right,
fulfilled.
and the TV deals are worth so much money that they can still kind of overcompensate for losing all the revenue from fans and concessions and shit if they can get these massive TV deals back in place, you know?
Right.
Which is exactly what has been happening with baseball, which is, I guess, where we can start if you
Right.
want to talk about the baseball, because it's back now and it's the first sport back.
It's back.
It is back, and it's been back for a week, and there's already been some controversy.
It's back. Every team -1 is back.
Yeah.
-1. I don't understand how they even got a season going forward. I know they were bargaining on the table, and the players wanted a longer season, and the owners were like, "Nope, we want 40 to 50 games." And players were like, "Nope, we're not going to get paid enough then." And then the owners are like, "Fuck you! You're playing 60 games. You have to go now." And pretty much. And the owners and the players, I don't know if the players decided it, but like the owners definitely decided that you weren't going to play in a bubble. You're going to travel. You're just going to have an extended stay. And that has caused the Miami Marlins to, I think maybe their entire squad to catch the COVID virus. And games have already been postponed there. And that looks real bad. Real bad.
Real bad.
Yeah, and because of the not bubble thing, Toronto now has to play their games in Buffalo because the Canadian government was like, "Nope, you're not coming in then. If you can't be in a bubble, you're not coming in."
Yeah, I think so. Baseball did it where, and you're right about the owners thing. So the owners essentially, for a month straight, if not longer, negotiated in bad faith.
They negotiated in pretty bad faith. Like they countered, like the
Yeah.
players had an offer, and then the MLB was like, "Actually, here's a worse offer," and they were like, "Nope," and they were like, "Here's a worse offer," and then they're like, "Nope," and then owners were like, "Okay, here's a slightly worse offer, but you actually have to do it or else."
And they got the owners also got the. It was interesting because the media was pretty divisive on it, like the baseball media. Like a lot of people were siding with the players, but there were some people that were like, "We just want baseball, so we'll get mad the players aren't agreeing." But some of that has got to be the owners definitely spinning the old machine there, and just the thing with the owners in baseball and any sport is that we have long known that owners in sports, especially North American sports, really don't give a crap about their players, and that's
Football.
Oh, I mean, most evident in football. I mean, they give them bad contracts. They have non-guaranteed money if you get hurt.
Yep.
It's a lot of bullshit. But in baseball, there's been a lot of over the years. I mean, over decades, there's been a lot of labor disputes between players and owners. It goes back, decades and decades and decades, probably all the way back
to the 90s where they had the strike and
the strike, which I mean, it goes back really even farther than that because, minor league players used to make even less than they do now, which is still despicable, by the way. But now baseball's like, cool, we're just going to straight up eradicate some of the minor leagues. But Anyway, yeah, baseball owners, bad and not good is how I would describe baseball owners.
Bad and not good. Yeah, that's
bad
right.
and not good. But baseball getting underway, I think the idea was it was okay. So you're gonna do how baseball usually works is you play your division a shitload of times because there's a lot of games, and then you just go around the country and you play the other teams. You probably have 2 series against a team on the other side of the country per year, right?
Right.
Like I'm a Dodgers fan. Okay, so the Dodgers would play, the Mets twice a year, once in their park, once in Los Angeles, right?
Right.
But now baseball's like, okay, we can't do that because of just the risk So you're only going to travel short to intermediate distances. So you can only play teams in your division and teams in the division from the other league, but that division has to be like in your same time zone or like no more than one over. So
Right.
like the American League East, right, has the Yankees, the Red Sox, Toronto, Baltimore, and Tampa Bay. But also they're going to play themselves a lot, but they're also going to play the National League East, which is the Mets in New York, the Nationals in DC, the Braves in Atlanta, the Marlins in Miami.
Play the
Yeah,
Marlins. Haha.
yeah. Well, now no one's playing the Marlins right now, but and Philadelphia, the Phillies. So those are all within a general, few hours, give or take. Toronto was the only leap, but now Toronto's in Buffalo because the Canadian government had some sort of a brain. So Toronto, by the way, before they got to play in Buffalo, was denied a bunch of other places where they could have played. They wanted to play in Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh said, "Fuck you, you can't play here." That was essentially the message. So Toronto's in Buffalo, which makes sense. And so you're going from Buffalo to Miami. It's just down that one coast. And most of it is above, it's DC and higher is most of it. So it's really, the travel's not that bad. But as we mentioned, it's anything but a bubble. So there are going to be problems. So when one team like the Marlins has like 13 guys get COVID or whatever the number was, and they play the Phillies. Now, thankfully, I don't think anybody on the Phillies has COVID as of today. I know they ran a bunch of tests on them. I think the Phillies are all right. They might have a couple guys. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty sure Philadelphia is okay. Thankfully, but Philadelphia opened their season against the Marlins, and in the third game of the year, they were like, "Oh, everybody in the Marlins has COVID. Y'all can't play." But then the Phillies had already, we're going to play another team next, or they were going to play, I believe they were going to play, I forget who was in their schedule, but I think they had a game against the Yankees coming up or something. Like, I'm looking at the Philly schedule right now, and they had, it was Toronto. It was the Blue Jays. So that game
Nice.
they had two against the Yankees they were supposed to play yesterday and Monday. Those games got postponed because the Marlins thing came out on Monday.
Right.
So the Phillies were already, I think the Yankees might have already been in Philadelphia, and they were like, "Oh, no, you guys can't play." So then everybody in the Yankees, I think, got tested, and then everybody in the Phillies got tested, and I think we're okay. But baseball, there's also no continuity because the people that are not playing in the game have to wear masks and everything, and like if you're in the dugout and I'm the manager, I have to wear a mask, right? But if I'm the pitcher and I go back in the dugout, I don't have to wear a mask.
Right.
So to me, that doesn't make any sense. Everybody who's in the dugout should have to wear a mask. And if you're on the field, you don't have to wear a mask. That's fine. Everybody's
No, I understand that. Yeah.
So I don't, because everybody in baseball is already way away from each other as it is. The only people that are close to each other are the catcher and the umpire is wearing a mask. So in theory, that could work. But once again, because it's baseball and the commissioner is fucking stupid, the rules have no continuity.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, that I don't know what their quarantine period is for the baseball players either.
I think it's 2 weeks.
Is it 2 weeks? Like,
yeah,
it's supposed to be? Okay.
Because there have been some false positives that have come out. Like the Nationals in Washington D.C., their best player tested positive right before the season started. So like, oh shit, we got to shut them down for 2 weeks. They shut them down for 2 weeks, and then it was ruled that actually, sorry guys, this was a false positive. So I think they're going to bring him back next week.
Right. That sucks.
The whole thing.
I know Tampa Bay. I know the Tampa Bay team. I don't know what they're called.
The Rays.
Okay.
Rays, yeah.
I know they had a bunch of positives before the season started. I don't know if they have that anymore, but again, they're in Florida, so yikes.
Oh, big yikes! And they're not even in the worst part of Florida, which is, I mean, because Tampa Bay is on toward the top part of the state, not as high up as like Gainesville or something, like when you're in basically Alabama. You're in really rural Florida.
Right.
It's not like the Panhandle, but you're still you're still up there in Tampa Bay.
Right.
But like as you go south, like Orlando is very bad. And Orlando is where the NBA is, as I mentioned. But
Right.
yeah, I mean with baseball, I think everybody just has to. They could have. What they should have done is after the Marlins tests come out, they should have shut down the season for a little bit.
They should have at least put a stop to it.
Right. Give it 2 weeks, and then reassess.
Because like now you have empty games for the Marlins now.
Right. Now, granted, the Marlins suck ass, so it's not like the Marlins are going to be out here winning games, but it's still.
What do you mean? They won. They were 2-1 in their first 3 games. That means they'll be good. If you ride that percentage the rest of the way, they'll make the playoffs.
Well, there is something to be said for the fact that baseball season is usually incredibly long, and what that does is. But one of the things about baseball that I do like is that most bad teams are just bad. Like you can't really get lucky that much in baseball. You can get lucky in some parts of the season, but to make the playoffs in baseball, you usually have to be like a pretty damn good team because you play a million games, so you have to win like 90 out of your 162 to make the playoffs, which means your winning percentage has to be good.
And don't you have to and isn't it correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it usually less than isn't 10 teams or less that make the playoffs in total?
Yeah, so typically it's 5 teams from each league, so it's 10 teams.
Yeah. Man. Yeah, that'd be real hard then.
Obviously, but this year, baseball is turning into hockey and basketball because it's 16 teams. 16 teams instead of 10. Because it's a shortened season, I think they're trying out some new shit.
Yeah.
So you've got 16 teams in baseball. It's going to be the top 8 from each league instead of the top 5. So there's going to be there's probably going to be 2 or 3 mid teams that get in the playoffs.
Blue Jays, hello. Hello, it's the Blue Jays.
I mean, you're honestly right. Like the Blue Jays are probably going to get the 8th seed in the American League and get fucking waxed by the Yankees. But actually, who knows? Because part of the baseball restart is every playoff series is best of 3 or something, or at least the first round is best of 3. In a best of 3, there is all chance. There's there is no continuity in that. If you're a team like the Blue Jays and you get hot one game, so let's say if you're the Blue Jays, they have a good lineup, right? I mean, they're young, but they have a good lineup. So let's say they get hot one game and they hit the Yankees well, and they're up 1-0. Well, shit, all you have to do is win 1 out of the next 2, and you can beat the number 1 team because it's a 2 out of 3. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's not really an advantage for the teams that are good the whole year. So this is the first baseball season where there's really no advantage to being first versus being 5th.
Right.
If they even finish the season, because
they finish the season, yeah. I'm not sure.
I'm not confident that
if the players weren't happy with that going forward, I doubt it gets finished.
I mean, the players definitely want to play, but shit, if they stop the season, what are the owners going to do? Sorry, guys, those some of your guaranteed contracts no longer guaranteed.
Yeah, they would have a strike, and then they'd probably cancel next season over the strike. Yeah.
It's a no-win scenario for the players. It's hey, risk your health and safety, or don't get paid.
Right.
Which is essentially just a great metaphor for America right now, but that's a whole other discussion.
Yes.
I guess. Oh no, you go ahead.
No, I saw some of those unemployment numbers that are going to happen soon.
Oh, it's bad.
It's bad.
It's bad and not good. It's what was the number? It was in we're looking at way more than 30%, right? We're looking at
Vermont was the lowest of 20% last time I looked.
Yeah, so there's going to be states in the 30s for sure.
There might be states in the 40s.
There might be states in the 40s. I mean, shit, states that don't have a lot of infrastructure jobs,
right.
Fuck, man, that's just terrible. It's not good. But I guess speaking of places coming back, because Disney World is coming back, and they've ran some really They ran some really dystopian looking advertisements where the workers come out and they're like, "Man, I'm so fucking happy to be back and working at Disney World, man. Mickey Mouse, I'm gonna go up and give him a big fucking hug on day one." But yeah, speaking of Orlando and Disney World, the NBA. The NBA is coming back. It's gonna start tomorrow, I believe. Well, we're recording this on the 29th.
It's tomorrow.
July.
Yeah, they start tomorrow.
They do start tomorrow. And the NBA, as was the case with a lot of winter sports, was almost done with their season. So they're picking up mostly where they left off, but it's more of a simulated end of the season format.
Right. With a bunch of teams being eliminated in the East and like 2 from the West. So.
Right. That is exactly what it is, because the East is terrible. Outside of the East, unlike recent years, the East only used to be good in like the top 3 or top 2, and now it's like really good in the top 6, but the rest of the conference sucks. That's why you allow something like the Washington Wizards, who are a whopping 8-24 away from home,
That's the best road record ever, dude.
Which has got to be one of the worst road records in the league. I'm going to look at it right now. I think it's one of the worst. It's the worst road record in the Eastern Conference by percentage. Even the Cavaliers, who are the worst team in the league, have a better record. Golden State is 7-24 away from home. So the only team they beat in this category is Golden State. And
nice.
The Wizards, and that's a bottom 3 team in the league. And the Wizards are invited to the NBA's end of season tournament, essentially.
If they don't even I'm not really big in. I only followed basketball last year when the Raptors were on the incredible playoff run. Mm-hmm. But the Wizards, if they don't try, I don't blame them.
I mean, the Wizards. If I was a player on the Wizards, there's no reason to show up besides like collecting the check.
There's no reason to show up.
Because if you look at all their games, like I'm just going to pull up their schedule right now, and I can guarantee you they're not going to win a single game. They're over-under. I haven't looked at a lot of the gambling stuff yet, but I imagine they're over-under for wins. They've got 8 games to play, right? Their over-under has to be like 1.5 because they play the Suns their first game. Okay, they might win that. The Suns are bad, but the Suns are a little better than them. But like that's a coin flip. They play the Nets. The Nets are mid, but they're probably going to lose. They play Indiana. They're going to lose. They play Philly. They're going to get smacked. They play the Pelicans. They're probably going to lose. They play OKC. They're going to lose. They play the Bucks. They're going to get demolished. And they play Boston. They're going to get demolished. So I see like 2 wins on the schedule for them at most.
Hold on. I actually have the odds pulled up, so I can pull them up. Washington. I can't read these.
Oh,
I don't know how odds work.
I'll pull up a my little gambling sites here. We'll throw on FanDuel. Shout out to FanDuel. We'll look at some of these odds.
I went to Vegas Insider and I can't read these. Oh wait, no, hold on. No, that makes more sense. Hold on.
Oh, Vegas Insider, you've got all the numbers. They lay everything out for you. They make it complicated. I'm looking at, because it should be in futures right here. Let's take a look. This is great. This is great radio on my part. Yeah, so if you look at the futures, they're only given, a lot of the futures are only odds to win the championship or like to win the conference.
Yep, I see that.
Yeah.
I love how they're 21-1 odds to be the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. That just we love to see it. First of all,
21-1 odds. Which, by the way, to be the 8th seed, not even to do anything worthwhile.
Yeah,
just to be the 8th seed, 21-1 odds. It's honestly
the only team that has worst odds to be the 8th seed are the Suns in the West, which makes sense, and the Mavericks, who are the 7th seed in the West right now.
Because the Mavericks would have to lose a bunch of games.
The Mavericks have to lose a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And the Memphis Grizzlies are minus 143 for the 8th seed, and the Nets are minus 250. So that makes sense. Yeah.
They've got a little bit of a the Grizzlies are in the 8 right now. They've got some competition, but they've got a 3.5 game cushion on Portland, so that works. I guess with the NBA, I mean, before we talk about maybe like a little bit of prediction stuff, I think the NBA, how they're handling the bubble, has had some ups and downs. I think the idea of going to Florida is a terrible idea.
Going to Florida is real bad, yeah.
Real bad. Like you could have went to especially because they're playing in these gyms that are like not that big and there's no fans. The only people there are team personnel, so you don't need a big gym. Like go find a place in fucking Kansas. Like go to, you know what I mean? Go to like some rural place. I don't understand it personally. But to each his own, I guess. Adam Silver wanted that ESPN money, so hey.
They they wanted to go in and they wanted to have a party. They wanted to provide guests they wanted to buy drinks and parties for the guests. Tupac hologram in the middle of the pool table. Everyone will love it.
Well, my favorite details about the bubble is the games are literally like that. Like they have things to entertain the players, which by the way, these are NBA players who are like during their days off are usually either with their families, training more, or just like, at other sporting events or at other public, making public appearances and
at the Flat Earth Convention.
Right.
Thank you, Kyrie.
At the Flat Earth Convention, also known as the strip club. Shout out Magic City, because Lou Williams, legendary sixth man, and also really consistently good player for the LA Clippers, an important piece on that team, a championship contending team, mind you. Lou Williams had an excused absence from the bubble, which is very rare. You basically have to sell your soul to get out of that thing because there's no guarantee if you're going to have, Rona when you get back. And essentially Lou Williams got an excused absence and he used it to go to Magic City and have some drinks and have some fire ass looking wings. And that was his reason for going to the famous strip club that a lot of rappers have frequented over the years, legendary home of Migos, Gucci, etc. He made an appearance, and he is now facing the repercussions of that. So shout out to Lou Williams for making a great business decision. Truly hilarious. I mean, I will say I got to give him respect because the wings were posted all over Twitter in the days after, and they looked really great. So I got to give him props.
Props for going to a strip club during the pandemic. Very epic. I would say very epic.
I hear that all of the services at the strip club are performed at masks on, so it was safe.
Oh, okay. Thank God.
I was getting worried there. But yeah, the NBA. I think there are negatives and positives to this. I think it's another negative. I'm really just listing the negatives at this point, but really another negative is the fact that there's virtually no off season.
Yep.
Because the NBA is going to come back, and then they're going to have a short turnaround, and then it's going to be the regular season again.
Yep. We're going to try and get things back to normal. We'll talk about this later. The NHL is going to do something similar. I don't know what the NBA's turnaround time is. The NHL's is going to be about 1 to 2 months before they start back up.
Yeah, I think the NBA's is around a month, give or take. I mean, it might be a little more, but it's not good. It's not. Once again, it's not good because I mean now the alternative is okay. Well, the players have had a long layoff here.
Some of them have had months and months and months and months and months to lay off.
And half the league is going to have a lot of time because they suck and they're not going to be playing in these games.
Right.
So that's another thing. But if you're like the Bucks or the Lakers or the Clippers or like the Raptors, like a championship team, your turnaround is going to be no time.
Right.
And that is what we're looking at.
That sounds real good.
But on the other hand, the positive from all this is that we get basketball back, which is pretty cool.
Which I definitely watch all the time. Yep.
Which you do.
I definitely watch it all the time.
It's funny. I haven't watched a basketball game, since March, obviously. So I'm kind of geared up for this NBA return, even though I'm worried about player safety. But
right.
I'm geared up about it. I think it'll be. It was really a really great season going on. There were a bunch of good teams, bunch of cool like playoff series that could have happened. Now we'll just get those series hopefully, but there's just gonna be no fans.
Yep.
We're gonna get fake crowd noise. We're gonna get players mic'd up, so expect a lot of cursing on national TV.
Damn, epic.
Epic,
Yes,
real
that's
epic.
exactly what we want.
That is exactly. Yeah, exactly. All of the old racist owners are rolling in their grave right now.
Donald
They're like
damn.
yeah. Donald Sterling's like, why can't I say the N-word? He's doing it. I'm like, Donald, he's black, my guy. Donald, what are we doing? But yeah, I mean, so I think to your point earlier about the you being invested in the Raptors and starting and getting invested last year, they're really good again, and they're gonna.
I looked, yeah.
they're gonna compete for a title. I don't think they'll win it, but I think in this shortened season, teams that have a lot of depth and don't have to lean on a lot of stars, I think it helps them because you're going to play so many games in a short amount of time. You need younger teams and you need teams that play a lot of guys. And the Raptors play like 10 guys.
Right.
A team like Milwaukee plays like 10 guys, So teams like the Bucks and the Raptors, I mean, they're already at the top of the conference in the East, but I expect those two to be there when this, tournament shakes out. I expect them to play each other in the conference finals. Maybe you see a team like the Sixers figure it out, but they're so streaky that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anything. I haven't followed it. All I know is that Lakers, Clippers good, Raptors good, Golden State Warriors very bad.
Very bad. I mean, historically bad for their standards, considering their last 6 years.
Yeah, and Knicks, haha.
Knicks make me laugh. Yes, as a longtime Knicks fan, it is brutal.
Yeah.
But I think with the bubble, like, I mean, it's going to happen in all sports, but like with the crowd noise, like there's not really home games. Like home games don't really exist.
Home games don't matter anymore. And
so teams that were like elite at home, like the Sixers and like the Miami
Nuggets,
Heat, Nuggets, yeah, and teams like the Clippers too. Teams that were like incredible at home, you're gonna have to like find a way to make that up.
Yeah, they no longer have teams traveling to Denver and not playing as well due to altitude changes.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very. I can't breathe. I'm going to lose a basketball game.
Fuck, damn. It's like I have COVID.
It's like it's playing in Denver in a normal week feels like I have COVID. Can you imagine just playing?
Shit,
dude. But yeah, I think I don't have like too many hot take predictions when it comes to basketball. I think the Bucks will be there. I think they're really good. I think the Raptors are really good, but I don't think they'll win a series against the Bucks. I think they'll win a playoff series or two, but I just feel like against the Bucks, if Giannis comes back and he's like healthy and in the MVP form that he was playing in, I think the Bucks are going to make the finals. And in the West, I mean, I don't know. I think the Clippers and the Lakers are the obvious teams that people would choose between, but I feel like a wild card is like a team like the Rockets or the Mavericks. Like, the Mavericks really only have they have two elite players and a bunch of other like solid guys.
And the Rockets have James Harden.
And the Rockets have James Harden, who didn't have COVID, but he did, but we're not too sure.
All we know is that he wore a Blue Lives Matter mask because it looked very cool.
Which is, again, just a lot of cool things being done.
He looks very good in it, and we have to applaud him. He be dripping, although he has no idea what it means. Very,
very cool. Once again,
very cool.
Thank you, James. Very cool. Also, another very cool moment. Michael Porter Jr., a second-year player on the Nuggets, is a straight up like a 5%er. Which I didn't know. I didn't know NBA players could be like 5%ers, like Nation of Islam, straight up like guys. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's true.
There's a million bad jokes I could say right now, and I'm just gonna refrain from saying any of them. So
I mean, he's also like a big was it like QAnon?
oh yes, my
All that.
favorite people.
He's legitimately been hitting us with some of those takes.
Andy Nago, please provide more milkshake reporting right now.
See, I mean, it's honestly crazy. Like people were getting at Kyrie for like the flat Earth stuff, but this stuff is way worse in my opinion.
There was an old NHL player, and he was like irrelevant, and he started tweeting QAnon stuff too, and everyone was like, "Oh brother, here we go."
Oh brother, this guy stinks.
Another enforcer who's tweeting QAnon stuff. Damn, we never would have guessed.
We need Ryan Reeves to hit him in the head a few times ASAP.
The only good enforcer, Ryan Reeves.
The only good enforcer. Remember when he gave like Slava Voinov like CTE or whatever? Didn't Slava Voinov like beat the shit out of his wife or something?
He did, and then I think he got deported, which is incredible.
That owns really hard. I love to see it.
He fought Evander Kane, who's had multiple rape accusations against him, and you know what? Ryan Reeves, king. Don't let the crown slip, sir.
King shit. Did you see that? I saw a tweet yesterday. I mean, I guess we can pivot in. I want to do football before hockey, but we'll pivot into hockey in a second. But
yeah.
Did you see the tweet the other day that was like, it was from some like account, but it was like Tom Wilson is like an elite goal scorer or something like
David
that?
Pastrnak tweeted it. And I don't know why.
It's honestly...
Like, did you lose the bet? And I'm like, yes, you probably did.
He probably
lost the bet.
It honestly makes me laugh. Shout out to David Pastrnak. An actual good goal scorer.
Everyone clap right now. He's not a fluke.
Everyone clap right now. I guess I'll close with basketball by saying that I am hopeful that the season will get concluded, and I think it will.
I think it will.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Who's your pick to win?
I mean, my pick to win at the beginning of the year was the Bucks, and I think I'm going to stick with that pick. I think they were 53-12 before the season stopped, which is, on pace for one of the 10 best seasons ever. You take that percentage out. They had an .815 winning percentage, which is disgusting.
That is disgusting good, yeah.
Yeah, like their home record was 28-3, but their road record was 25-9. They were equally good, and they were 53-12 while losing 3 straight games to end that run. So really, they hadn't lost 3 straight games all season, I think, and so that was like an anomaly.
Damn.
So they're nasty. I think the Lakers and the Clippers are really good. I think the Rockets are good, and I think the Thunder are good, but I just don't think the Nuggets, Thunder, Rockets, Mavericks, like all those teams can win one series, but I'm not sure about 2. And I think the Clippers, they have a lot of depth, and they can wear you down with their defense and their depth and such. So I would probably go with Bucks. I'm going to say Bucks Clippers in the final, and I'll take Milwaukee.
Okay, I don't know. First of all, I have no idea. All I know is that 2 is my lucky number, so I'm going to go with either Raptors or Clippers winning.
Those are pretty good picks too, honestly, because if you look at the odds, those teams are very. I mean, the Clippers are top 3, and the Raptors are top 5 in odds. So the Raptors have the exact same home and road record this year. They've been remarkably consistent. They lost Kawhi Leonard, who's one of the 5 best players in the league, easily, and they haven't
lost a step.
Really. They haven't lost a step. They've been just as good. They find guys that were like castaways or like, undrafted guys or second round guys, and they make them really good.
The Pittsburgh Penguins of the NBA. I understand.
I understand. That is a pretty good comp. They remind me. They remind me a lot of. They're really smart. Like their front office is smart, and their players are smart, and they play team basketball, and it's like just an ideal way of playing hoops. So, I think the Raptors will will win a series. I think it's a coin flip if they play the Celtics in the second round. I'd probably pick them, but it's a flip of a coin. I don't think either team beats the Bucks. Like I said, I just think Milwaukee, if they're healthy, they shoot a shit ton of threes. They make a shit ton of threes. They have the best player in the game. They're just a really complete team. So,
Right.
I'm going to take Milwaukee, which is a boring pick, but I'm going to take Milwaukee.
Take Milwaukee. Boring pick.
Boring pick. It is a boring pick, but I'll take Milwaukee.
I'll take Clippers and Raptors, and then I'll take Clippers winning. Why not?
I mean, at the beginning of the season, if you had the Clippers, I mean, even now, if the Clippers winning, like most people would say, it's a pretty good bet. So, I think you're on the right track. I wouldn't be surprised if you were right and I was wrong, because the Clippers do have a myriad of players who are clutch, and Kawhi Leonard, probably the most clutch player at the moment in the postseason. So, it'll win you some points. But I guess we can talk football for a few minutes.
Yeah. They're not going to bubble. They even want fans back in attendance, and this team doesn't care. And as of right now, about 20-plus players have opted out before the season has even started, which is more than the NHL, and I'm pretty sure it's more than basketball as well. You might want to double-check that. Okay, yeah.
It's definitely
insane.
More than basketball.
And I have no idea why they just want to do a bubble. Every team plays one game a week. It's super easy to do. Even if you don't follow quarantine guidelines, you could just literally go to a city. You have like a couple of teams there, and then you just play a couple games, and then you move to another hub. They said we don't want. If we had to do bubbles, it'd be 32 self-contained bubbles, which means they're idiots and they haven't thought it through at all.
No, they have not. And the NFL really only cares about the revenue more than probably any other American sport, which is saying something.
Right.
It really is, because all four of the big-time North American sports care more about the dollar signs than anything, but especially football. So it's hard not to be cynical looking at their plan. Now, I know that in New York, the Jets and the Giants are not going to have fans. I don't know about all the other places. I have to imagine that most places, if not all of them, are going to institute no fans. They're only in training camp right now. They're probably not going to play any preseason games, which helps.
Yeah.
It also means the quality of play for football for the first few weeks is going to be straight cheeks. So.
Oh, I'm expecting that with all the leagues, so that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, baseball has been. I think baseball is so far the quality of play has been all right, but a lot of the good hitters haven't found themselves yet, and a lot of the good pitchers are only throwing a couple innings right now because they're not back to form.
Right.
And baseball had a decently long spring.
Right.
So that's essentially what's going on with football. They have very little time to prepare. Their training camps are usually a lot longer. Their off seasons usually, they usually do a lot of work in the off season. That hasn't been happening.
No.
So I expect, a lot of turnovers, a lot of bad play calls, a lot of miscommunications on routes in the early going. So if you're gambling in the first few weeks of football, God help you, because you're just going to be gambling on a lot of teams that are kind of winging it. So good luck with that.
I love it. I'm going to gamble on my favorite team, the Washington football team, which is amazing.
The Washington football team, name to be determined, and they don't have much time left to get a name. They were kind of supposed to already have it by now, and clearly that hasn't happened yet. Also, Washington football team doing a great job, because they had a big old sexual assault scandal come out last week against them, against many of their employees. Not any of the players, but a lot of the office staff and things of that nature. So shout out to the Washington football team for just being the absolute worst organization on all levels.
I love the NFL so much. If they're not going to bubble, and knowing the owners, they're not going to, and they have no plans to, the NFL might not even get off after the first week. It might be a first weekend and that's it. I could see that happening.
I think it'll last a few weeks because they're so headstrong. I feel like you said, it should be easiest to bubble.
It really should be.
You know what I mean? It really should. With the NFL, it should be the easiest sport because you're only going against your own team the whole week, and then one game a week, you play the other guys, and you're wearing helmets with visors that are gonna protect your face.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's not like you're spitting on the other guy.
Nope. That's crazy to me. I can't believe they're not going to do it. But
I mean,
again,
even
we're
if
not
the
surprised.
if the NFL did like baseball did, only played teams in your division, that could work.
Right.
But they're just saying, fuck it. And by the way, the NFL. I think the NFL, I think we'll get to this, but I think hockey is the most dudes rock league. But I think which owns, by the way, but also the NFL is definitely the most Blue Lives Matter league. So you're just gonna unfortunately have a lot of posturing before the games, where the players are gonna kneel and shit, and then you're gonna have a big ass advert, a big ass "We love our cops" banner going on, just in the stadium.
So a bunch of Amazon ads. Bow down to our Turtle King Jeff Bezos, and all the owners, they come up from the boxes and they all start praying to Jeff Bezos.
They're gonna do the sign of the cross, but it's it's the sign of the cross, but it's Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and was it Tim? Who was
the Walmart owner? I don't know.
Yeah, or any other billionaire guy. But yeah. Football, I don't know. I think the thing about football is I don't think they're going to cancel it just because it's football and we don't give a fuck about.
Someone will have to die before they might cancel it.
Yeah,
I'm calling it.
I think the bigger controversy around football is going to be how many players support Black Lives Matter and how many owners come out and say that they're racist.
Oh, yes, sweet. I love watching the video of the most racist town in the United States and holding a BLM one, and the guy comes and said, Black Lives Matter. They're just like ISIS. We love to hear it.
I also saw that video on Twitter yesterday.
Amazing video.
An incredible video. I was enthralled. I thought the caption was a little on the nose, but then I watched the video and I was like, nah, he's got a point.
No, it's on Wikipedia. It's been sorted as having one of the most racist town in the United States, which is insane.
Shout out to the one kid who came up to him and was like, "Yo, great job, homie. Here's some support." At the end of the video, and then after that, it was just a picture. It cuts to a guy driving his car, and it's like, "Fuck you, you fucking communist." It's like, yes. Caring about your average civilian is communism. Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyhow, NFL. I honestly don't know. I know the teams that are going to be good. The Ravens are going to be really good. The Niners are going to be good. The Chiefs are going to be good. All these teams are going to be. The good teams are going to be good. That's my hot take. Is
wow.
The NFC West is going to have some good teams. Seattle's good. They just traded for an elite safety. My team, the Giants, is going to be very bad, and that's just how it works. That's really just how it works.
The draft pick that was so bad that even non-sports fans were like, nice going.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but hey,
I don't care about the NFL. They can cancel the season, and I would start clapping. But unfortunately, and I did say after 1 week. I did say originally after 1 week that they'll cancel. I'm going to rescind that. I'm going to say someone will have to literally die before they cancel. So,
yeah, they're going to have Tom Brady hospitalized or something. Some transcendent
player
player that goes beyond the realm of people that football fans know. You know what I mean? Some household name's got to get Rona and be actually ill for them to just can the season.
Yeah, it sucks.
But, I guess this leads to my main point, which is kind of the basis of what we were going to talk about on this podcast in general, was the sport of hockey, which I know you love and I love, and is an interesting time for hockey because hockey for the longest time has Commissioner Gary Bettman, who has been regarded as one of the worst commissioners in sports history, I believe.
He's I think he's
who-
one of the worst because he's had like 3 or 4 strikes.
Yeah,
Which is
hockey hates their players more than like any other sport, which is saying a lot.
I don't know about that. The NFL
I mean,
might.
the NFL is probably right there too. It's both. I think the NFL probably takes it right now, but I think hockey. I mean, the amount of money, the fact that the players make zero money compared to what they're worth. I mean, you have good hockey players, like very good hockey players,
You have really good hockey players,
that make like $4 million a year, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what is going? Like in basketball, they'd be making $20 million a year.
Connor McDavid would be making $40 million a year, and he makes 15.
Yeah,
Tops.
with endorsements. You know what I mean?
That's with salary included too.
Like,
Yeah.
it's incredible to me that you have the best player in the league, Connor McDavid, and he's making jack shit. I mean, 15 million is not jack shit, but in the grand scheme of things, it is. But yeah, definitely some wild times. Because hockey has handled this the best, I think, out of any of the big four sports.
Yep.
They've bubbled. They've moved to Western Canada, which is
And Eastern.
And Eastern, true. Two whole different sides of the country, who have both been doing well in handling the pandemic, as we talked about.
Yep.
And I think they're gonna play a full season because right now they're chilling. Like, not many people have tested positive, which is a great thing.
They had 2.
Right. Which compared to other leagues is like a big victory.
And a bunch of false positives. They had more false positives than they had actual positives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is big.
That's
Also big.
That's huge. Yep.
So,
And the smartest decision they ever did was to move it to Canada. That was the smartest decision they made.
it was almost too smart.
It was almost too good. And the fact that a lot of the hockey culture is more like we stay inside our own circle and don't really branch out. I think that sort of culture has helped players really buy into the bubble and sort of stay in there. And I know how all the plan goes. And I know how all the details and stuff and how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they were originally going to have Edmonton was always going to be a city, and then they just had to figure out a second hub city that ended up being Toronto. They're thinking Chicago, which dropped out early, Vegas, which was one of the last drops. The spike in cases in Nevada killed whatever chance they had.
Yeah, whatever happened with Vegas was because Nevada, much like other states like Arizona, Texas, Florida, etc., their governor was like, fuck it. And then essentially the fuck it turned into we now have to stay in a car line for 12 hours outside of the local hospital that's testing for coronavirus. And I'm gonna burn a whole tank of gas because it's so hot in Nevada that I have to keep my AC on for 12 hours. And I've been here since 6 a.m. just to get tested to see if I have Rona or not.
Yeah, and
just because, hey, we wanted to go to the casino one night,
And Vancouver was going to be one of the things, but they opted out because of the isolation policy that the NHL was going to do, which was basically you have the option of it's either if you get a negative and you get more negatives, you have to isolate for 10 days instead of 14. And if you get, positive. Fuck me.
No, I got you.
And if you get a positive, they don't isolate the entire team and some of the players that are in contact with you. It's just you. And Vancouver didn't want any part of that. And Vancouver made it down to 20 cases a day. And obviously didn't want it going up. So Edmonton took the spot. Edmonton's going to be where the finals are going to be. And Toronto's going to be where the East teams are right now. So all the East time zone teams are in Toronto. And all the West time zone teams are in Edmonton.
Right.
And they split it up into 2 hotels each. One for one division, one for the other. So it works perfect. And they're doing great now. They've started exhibition games without any problem. I will say Chicago did win their exhibition game today, but it doesn't
They
count
did.
towards they did it doesn't count towards anything. So oops.
I
Oops.
did watch a little bit of that before we went on air here, and I knew it was 2-0. I was actually kind of impressed with how Chicago was skating, but then again, there's going to be a lot of teams that start fast here, and there's going to be a lot of teams that start slow, and you can't really afford to do that because they haven't been like straight up playing games for months. So like some people are just not. Some teams are not going to be skating well. Their chemistry is going to be off. Like so
Yeah, Florida lost 5-0 today, and
yeah.
um, that looks not very good.
I feel like we're going to see some blowouts.
We will. I mean, we might get into like more in-depth predictions in the other ones because I actually know some stuff, but
Yeah, of course.
but a lot of these teams are like really middling. So blowout, like it is possible we do get blowouts because one team is more prepared than the other. But like at the same time, these teams are so middling together that I don't really feel comfortable saying one team is gonna get blown out or not.
Yeah,
So
I think it's interesting because I think in the NHL and in the Western Conference, really, I mean, the East has Boston and Tampa, and we know those teams are good. And there were some teams that were really hot heading into the break, like the Flyers.
the Flyers,
Yeah,
the Penguins arguably should have been in that group too, but they just missed out.
yeah, and the Penguins kind of hurt themselves because they did go 3-7 in their last 10 heading into the break,
Yeah, there's
which is not great.
a lot of those injuries. A lot of those
Oh no, for
injuries.
sure. They were very hurt. I think some of that's just due to the fact that like I think the Penguins are a year early anyway. Like, they're just not really a championship level kind of team yet.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think they have a decent chance, but we'll see. It's they have healthy players now, and they're not going to play Jack Johnson with Chris Letang, which was one of the worst pairings in the NHL, and they were playing that constantly after January, which kind of led to their downfall down the standings a little bit. It's their testament that they're even fifth with that pairing
Oh
being
no,
top.
I mean,
But
look, the thing with the East is you get past like the top three and you get past the top four really, and to me it's a whole lot of mid. Like Pittsburgh, Carolina, Columbus, Toronto, Florida. That's a lot of mid right there.
yeah, there's a lot of like if this if this if the NHL has proven anything is that parity exists.
Parity exists, and sometimes it's a good thing, and sometimes it's a bad thing. You
Because
could say,
you can't
oh
have
well,
stuff like the NBA that just like you have like the top teams and they're always guaranteed to win. In the NHL, it's like no, that's not how that works.
right. Which a lot of NHL fans use as a thing to lord over fans of other sports as like, oh, parity means our sport is good, which is one of the more insufferable characteristics about hockey fans, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know that like some of the parity is because like, hey, some of these teams are just mid.
Some teams are just
Some
really
teams are
not
just
that
mid.
good.
It's like some of these teams are just like the epitome of like a Marvel movie. Like it's like, hey, it's okay.
Well, no, if they were the epitome of a Marvel movie, they'd be bad. So
It'd be bad. Fair enough. I mean, what is the Thor: The Dark World of hockey teams
the
essentially?
Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, I guess if we're gonna get into some predictions, I mean, obviously, I'm a Hawks fan, and I've actually followed them a lot this year. Even they're a very frustrating team.
Yeah.
They're not going to do well, I don't think, in this setting. But there are going to be teams that like them that could do well. Like
I
they're
think
not.
there's some upset potential here.
Yeah, like they're not that much worse than Edmonton. Like they're really not.
They're not. I did the research that they're not.
Which, when you look at the Western Conference, once again, a lot of mid teams in there. Like, who is good in the West besides like we think Vegas is good and we think St. Louis is good. And that's like, Colorado, sure, but like the rest, anyone can beat anyone. And really, anyone can beat Colorado or St. Louis. Like, those are good teams, but, you run into like a hot team, like they can win. I think Vegas is the best team in the West, even though they don't have the most points. I think talent-wise, them and St. Louis are the best.
Vegas has they have really good underlines, and they really had really good underlines heading in, and I think that can get them far. I don't think they're gonna win. I don't know who's gonna win. I will know my predictions at least in a couple days. I can sauce them over whenever. Feel free to discuss. I know all my takes are hot, and somehow that ended me with predicting a good portion of my bracket right last year, and it wasn't completely broken.
Yeah, because the NHL brain was broken last postseason. Nothing made sense. Nothing made sense. But that's I guess that's part of the appeal of playoff hockey. So I actually think this tournament format is really cool because this like best of 5 qualification stuff, like I think it lends itself to like the insanity of like playoff hockey.
Yeah. And I think and I don't know, I know why they did 24. It's because they can get Chicago, New York, and Montreal, and they can get all that TV ratings in.
Oh, absolutely.
I know that's why they did it, and I know that's why they did finish off the regular season either. Mostly because if you included Detroit and tried to finish off the regular season games, just be a waste of time. But yeah, this playoff format's really exciting. I hate the reseeding. The one thing I hate is the reseeding of the top 4 who come in. I get they have to play round robin. I don't know if you should reseed. I think they should just play exhibition. But I guess after last year, where basically every single team that was the top in every matchup but Boston lost, I guess maybe having something to play for is better.
Well, didn't the NHL used to reseed before every playoff round, right? And then they changed it to the bracket thing.
They changed it to divisional so they can have better TV ratings and matchups, which basically only lasted the first round and then it died.
Right, because that's the thing. The divisional was cool for round 1, but then you get a round 2 matchup where it's like the Panthers and like the Devils or something and you're just like, I don't want to watch this.
Well, there's some matchups here that I don't think anyone's gonna watch. But
you're not itching to see Winnipeg play Calgary.
That actually might be a good one. So
I think
that example.
I think Winnipeg's pretty uninteresting.
Nashville and Arizona, yikes.
Nashville and Arizona might set a record for most naps I've taken in a playoff series.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Columbus and Toronto, Toronto's such a hot mess to me that I'll watch it. I don't find Columbus very exciting.
That's really interesting. Like I say, okay, if I had to go for matchups, Pittsburgh and Montreal, that's really interesting to me. Carolina and New York is really interesting to me.
Yeah, that'll be a great series.
That's a great series. Islanders and Florida, nope. Toronto and Columbus, we'll see. It could go either way. Edmonton and Chicago, yeah, that's a good series. Nashville, Arizona, if anyone watches this, I'll be surprised.
They're not even going to watch this in Nashville and Arizona.
No, I can't believe that. All these matchups seem fair, and then you have Nashville and Arizona, and you're like whoever gets either one of them is just gonna okay, so we're not trying. We're just gonna go to second round. See you later. And I don't blame. I don't know. I can't believe it. Vancouver, Minnesota is not very interesting. Calgary, Winnipeg is interesting, but only if you're Canadian.
Yeah, I think the aspect of any inter-Canadian matchup in the playoffs is cool, but this isn't ordinary playoffs where you have fans. I think fans would help that series a lot because Calgary fans and Winnipeg fans, those stadiums are pretty great when they're rocking, and you can see it on TV. They'll wear the all red or the all white, so it's kind of a cool aesthetic. I don't think those games are that interesting without fans. I think Chicago Edmonton's cool because you kind of have the old dynasty that's no longer a thing versus the team that should have been a dynasty if they built around Connor McDavid correctly.
Yeah, and you have two teams that are like defensive black holes, more or less.
Oh my God, the Hawks have one defender that's good, and his name is Duncan Keith, and he's also like good, but he's still like, what is he like 37 now? He's getting up there.
34, I think.
34. Sorry, Duncan. I gave you too many years there. He is 37. I nailed it. He is 37.
Oh, fuck, really? Damn.
Yeah, Duncan Keith is like still good somehow, even though he's like logged ice time, like logged, what is it, like at least 30 minutes a night or something on the ice because they have no defensive pairing.
You know what? I did my research, and the underlying numbers say that Keith is like actually terrible. So I mean,
this year probably. Look, no one on the Hawks has played defense this year.
It's been the past couple of years.
They were terrible last year too.
Yeah,
the year that they were the 1 seed, and they got eliminated in the first round. I think was with like their last year where like their metrics were good, and they just got.
He wasn't the worst defender, but he was like maybe like middle. I'm looking
at his hockey reference. It's not that impressive compared to like his hockey reference like 4 years ago. Way more impressive.
Yeah.
When he was like an elite defender for like a 8-year stretch or whatever the fuck.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's right. And Seabrook's not going to play, so.
He sucks anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, he's probably done. You need that contract so bad off the books.
So I guess, I mean, what do you think in terms of like, who do you think wins some of these play-in series? And then.
Okay, so far, and these are subject to review. So, okay. What play-in series did you want to cover first? Do you have one in mind?
I mean, we could just like, I feel like we can lightning round a lot of these because I do want to get to like, I mean, I think Chicago Edmonton will go the 5, and I think Edmonton wins it. Because Chicago is like the most inconsistent team in hockey this year. Like they'll win 5 and they'll lose 6. It's kind of how it works.
Okay. Again, subject to change. I have Chicago in 5.
Could be. I could see it. It just depends on what Chicago you get. Like there was a period this season where like Patrick Kane was awesome and like Jonathan Taves was really good, but then there were periods where like Taves was not good and like they looked old, and it's like the same. You just don't know. You know what I mean? They're a weird team.
I will only pick the Hawks. Okay, so there's 2 ways it can go. All right, Edmonton double shifts McDavid and Draisaitl on separate lines. That's it. It's over.
Yeah.
If they don't do that, I think Chicago wins, and I think Chicago is going to win somehow. I think they have the goal scoring to do it. I think Edmonton also has the goal scoring, but I think the difference here is that while they're both bad defensively, Chicago is much worse defensively, but they have great goaltending, and Crawford stood on his head all year, and he's going to play. They cleared him to play. Right. So there's no worries about playing Malcolm Subban. And Leonard also stood on his head all year, but they traded him because they knew they weren't going to make it.
Because they're Edmonton. That's what.
Well, Chicago traded Leonard, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that whatever goaltending Chicago is going to get from Crawford, if he can do really well again, I think it's 5 for Chicago. But that's going to be a really like poor defensive series. There'll be lots of goals.
Oh God! It's every game's gonna be 5-4. Like I've probably watched like, I mean, you wouldn't know it from my random bad Leonard take there, but all of the Hawks games from like January and February, like before the pandemic hit, I watched probably like 85% of those games, and like they would win games like 8-4 and lose like 6-3 the next day. Like it doesn't make you just like it's how many goals can you score?
Right. It is. It kind of is like that. It's about how many scoring chances you can get, more or less. Okay. I'm going to stick to the West for a minute. Nashville, Arizona, I don't care. I picked Arizona because of goaltending, and I don't trust any team with John Hines. I think Arizona looks really bad in terms of underlying, and there's a lot of players with holes. But when Hines came in, Nashville looked pretty bad as well, and Rene had a really tough year, and I don't think he's gonna. Yeah, like he had the worst PK save percentage by a starter, and the average this year is around 840, 860 save percentage, and he had like 750 or something like that, which is insanely bad. That's like
Yeah. For a
5 goals
guy
a
that
game
like
bad, yeah.
for a guy that was an elite goaltender at one point in his career, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I can see Arizona stealing it with really good goaltending, and I think Taylor Hall, even though he doesn't have nearly the points that they wanted to show it, drove play an insane amount, and I think they could win it that way. I don't care either way. If one of them wins, they get dummied in the first round. I generally don't care, so I will go with Arizona. The next matchup, who are you going with? Arizona,
Well,
Nashville.
I'll take Arizona as well, mainly because I just really hate watching Nashville play hockey,
Okay.
and like that style. I'm gonna run through. So I'm gonna, like I said, I took Edmonton in 5. I'll take Calgary in a coin flip series. I really know nothing about Winnipeg. Full disclosure, I think they're boring. I also know nothing about them, so I'm kind of talking out of my ass here. But I remember them being excruciatingly boring last year, and
Mhm.
that's my defense. I'll take Pittsburgh. And I'll
What
take the Islanders in a close one. And I'll take Carolina in 5 over the Rangers, but I like that series.
what about you missed? So what about Toronto Columbus? Do you have any
I'll take Toronto in 5 because I don't know why. They're
Vancouver, Minnesota?
I kind of like Vancouver in this. Minnesota was playing really well before the break,
Mm-hmm.
but Vancouver had that like super hot start, and I feel like at the beginning of the year, at least I'm pretty sure that was them, right? Was that them or
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
that was them? Yeah, I thought there was them or Calgary. I feel like Vancouver. I feel like they can conjure that up again. Once again, a lot of these picks are literal guesses because we have no idea how these teams are going to look. But I do like Vancouver. I think they're like a little bit better. I'll take them in like 4,
Okay.
and I'll take. I guess Arizona was I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Arizona. I don't care.
The Arizona was I don't care.
I'm gonna take Pittsburgh in 4. I think that matchup is going to be really good hockey. Both teams played really well possession wise. The problem is Montreal has terrible special teams. Price has underperformed, but Matt Murray also had a really, really rough year. And Jerry wasn't particularly good after January either. So they have a problem in that going forward. But the problem is Montreal can't shoot. Their practice lines have been really, really bad in terms of getting chemistry out. I know the lines that I would prefer, and it's not it at all. And Pittsburgh has basically like kind of worse possession metrics, but Pittsburgh can shoot, and they have a great power play. And now that they have all their players back, that I don't think Montreal has like a huge chance. They could win it, but Pittsburgh would have to be insanely dry. They'd have to be like Islanders dry last year to like even go anywhere close near losing it. Islanders, Florida. I'm gonna take Florida in 5. Scoring wins in playoffs. Islanders were a 500 team outside of the 10-game win streak that they had in like the beginning of the year. They were like literally 500 the way through, which would have put them down near Montreal level because goaltending just went like average, and then the scoring just absolutely disappeared. And Florida had Bravosky, who signed a huge contract, and he underperformed crazy amount. But when they can score, they can like they really get it going. They're like Toronto, but like their defense is just like atrocious. So
It's really bad. I mean, I will say you do have a point with your Florida take because the Islanders ended the season before the pandemic on a 7-game losing streak, which is pretty rough.
they
But I
were
guess
2-4-4, which is in the last 10, which is atrocious bad.
it's very bad. I will say though, my Islanders pick will stand only because I think that on paper they have a pretty talented side if you look at their like top couple of lines. I mean, it's not Florida has like the younger talent. I think. I mean,
It
obviously,
depends how you look at that,
but I think the Islanders like you brought up the winning streak when it seemed like they were like a top, 3 team in the Eastern Conference or something during that.
They're really not. It's a
It's
false flag.
definitely it was definitely a mirage. But I think when you look at like some of the guys that they do have, I think in a short series, all they really need is a hot goalie, which is possible. I mean, with
it's possible both teams.
With Varlamov, right? Like it's definitely possible. We've seen it from him before,
and we've seen it from Bobrovsky before when he shut
we've
down
definitely
Tampa.
Seen it. Oh yeah, we've definitely seen it from him before. So I don't know. I guess the Florida pick makes more sense actually. The more I think about it, but I'll be headstrong and I'll take the Islanders in 5.
Okay.
Just I have a feeling that they're going to win.
I'm taking Toronto over Columbus. Columbus this is like
their goal
offense
differential. Their goal differential is
defense.
-7.
Yeah, and Toronto was all scoring or defense, and Columbus is all defense, all scoring, and scoring wins. If anything, the last couple of playoffs has told us is that scoring wins over defensive teams, and I think Toronto is going to take it. I think Toronto has some of the best firepower in the entire league. Matthews was elite this year in terms of that, on like every metric except for defense. What
do you think about Toronto's high school level defense?
It needs work.
I think the Maple Leaf season was summed up in the Carolina game when King Day was who was the goalie that came in?
David Ayers.
David Ayers, right?
And they couldn't do anything.
King David Ayers came in and
I don't. It's not even necessarily like Toronto's fault. Carolina is just that good. Like that's just how it goes. Carolina is just that good.
They're a dark horse to win the East. I think Carolina. I guess we can sort of get into that now, like dark horses to win the whole thing.
Yeah.
Or
We'll
like
get
to win
into that in a minute.
or to get farther.
Yeah.
I think Carolina is like a good, a solid pick for that because they're a dangerous team. Like if you look at their metrics, like their goal differential is really good. They're overall. They ended the season, that part of the season pretty strong. They were better than I feel like they're better than like the Pittsburghs of the world and like the Torontos of the world. They're not like Bruins, Tampa level, but they're like Capitals level.
Yep. So I'll pick Toronto over Columbus. I'll pick that. I'm going to say 5. I think a lot of these might go to 5. They're sloppy. I think
you're going to see some like shitty games, but they're going to be fun too. It's weird.
Because I think Columbus's defensive game is a bit of a mirage. Like I get it, and I think their goalies were a bit of a mirage too. But if Anderson can step it back up even a little bit, and if they can have the offense, I think they can win out over Columbus. It just might go to overtime because Columbus had 15 overtime losses this year, which is insane.
Pretty brutal.
And then I'll pick Carolina Rangers. I'm picking Carolina in 4. If they play Shesterkin, maybe the Rangers win because rookie goalies have a huge track record of going all the way to the Cup final and winning for no reason. So I could see that, but I'm going to take Carolina in 4. If they play Lundqvist, they doomed themselves. Rangers are front-loaded like hell, and then after that, it's like some of the worst stuff ever. And Carolina is kind of just like stacked in like different places. They had like an underwhelming-ish season, but they're stacked in different places enough that they could overturn the Rangers. And I think out west, I said Chicago in 5, right?
Yeah, you did.
Arizona and I don't care. I'm going to take, I don't know about Calgary or Winnipeg. I'll coin flip it. Winnipeg was terrible, but they managed to shoot pretty well. And Hellebuck had a Vezina caliber season. If he doesn't win the Vezina, that'll be the biggest crime in history. He led a defensively porous team to the playoffs, and he should have got a hard vote, at least. He had a .922 on a team that was supposed to let in 3 goals a game, which is insane. I can't believe he did it. And Calgary underperformed all season. So I don't know.
Oh, they definitely did.
They definitely did.
A team with that level of talent, people were expecting them to be, top 2 in the Pacific, and you finish behind Edmonton. You have 79 points.
Yeah,
Your
they
differentials
might have
minus.
gone out of a playoff spot too if the Pacific wasn't so bad.
God, the Pacific is the worst division in hockey.
So bad. Vegas ran away with that division, and I don't blame them. And Vancouver, Minnesota, tough decision on this one as well. I'm taking Minnesota because they were so hot coming into it. I think they would have taken out one of the central teams if the season continued. I think they would have taken out Nashville for a playoff spot, to be honest. I think they would have bumped out Nashville, Calgary, and I think they would have looked good doing it. And I really like where Dean Everson is heading. Even a goaltending, which was garbage all year, Stalock had great games. You just can't play Dubnyk. That's it. You can't play Dubnyk. And I think Minnesota, with its great defense and great offense that they had with the 3 weeks Dean Everson was coach, I think they could beat Vancouver. They might not go any farther than that, but they can beat Vancouver.
Yeah, I don't know how. I wonder how it'll work because I feel like some of these teams are going to catapult from this, play-in round and carry that momentum over. We see it all the time in hockey.
Yeah.
But some of these teams are also just not great. So it just depends on what the situation is. But I think overall, when it comes to the NHL, I think it's tough to predict, especially in unpredictable playoffs. But I think out of the West this year, I kind of like Colorado. I don't want to pick St. Louis because I hate St. Louis. So I want to pick Colorado because, for one, they outscore you by 1,000,000. Their goal differential is the best in the league, or best in the West anyway.
Despite all the injuries, they're best.
Despite all the injuries, and they were hot, and they have 1,000,000 guys that can score, as I just said, and they do hold teams pretty well. I don't know what their defensive stats are, but they do hold teams pretty well. They've gotten some great goaltending that's been kind of unexpected, I think. So that
Grubauer was up and down, but Francouz was a great backup. So
right, and that's what I kind of mean is is that going to last? But I'm going to pick Colorado because I want to pick Colorado.
If I'm taking someone out west, do you have a dark horse out west, like someone who's on the top four?
I think my dark horse would probably be. I think my dark horse would be Vancouver.
Okay, interesting pick. Yeah, I think if I had to pick someone from the top four out of the West, if I had to pick anyone from the West, I'd pick Vegas. They can switch back between Fleury and Leonard, and Leonard, for 2 years straight, has been one of the best goalies in the world, in my opinion. He's been absolutely insane. And Colorado, even if all the injuries, they still managed to be a great team on the line and on the ice. Their defensive stats on the line were top 10, which is insane to me. I can't believe that, but I guess that's truth be told. Dallas might have some chance here too, but I don't know how far that gets them. It might get them passed around again, and then that might be it. My dark horse is going to be Minnesota because they were really, really good heading into the break, and I really like where Dean Everson took this team going.
Well, they were really bad. They had a really, really bad run, and then they rallied hard in the
they
last
had a really
few
bad
weeks.
run because they couldn't buy a save. They were near Detroit levels bad for goaltending. And then they finally had a new coach come in, and then the shooting went way up like it did all year. And then the goaltending finally stabilized, and then they finally had great underlying. So I think my dark horse is Minnesota. That's kind of a hot take, but I'll take Minnesota. I really don't think any of the teams outside of the top four in the West are really going to do much. So having a dark horse is kind of useless. And in the East...
I agree.
Yeah, in the East... God, this is hard. Tampa might be my choice. They did really well again. They just can't choke again. Washington would have been my other choice, but with Samsonov out and Hopi had a really bad year, and apparently Carl's exhibition game tonight injured, which is not great. He didn't have like a great defensive year, but he had a great offense year. And having that kind of thing lost on the blue line is not fantastic, especially when I'm pretty sure he would be their only good power play quarterback, which is not ideal. But I'm going to take Tampa for the dark horse. Not the dark horse, sorry, for maybe like the winner of the top seeds and maybe the winner of the East. For the dark horses, there's like two teams that stand out to me. Pittsburgh stands out. I think Pittsburgh can take it as far as they want to again. They just have to make sure the lines are smart and balanced, and Jack Johnson can't be anywhere near the top. And Carolina can also do it.
Yeah, I think my dark horse is Carolina, and my pick to win is I'm gonna say Boston because I've got burned by Tampa the last 2 years.
I don't like Boston. I don't think they're going to do anything. They have the President's Trophy curse, and I think some of it is in March. They had 12 overtime losses. They went 0-8 in the 0-7 in the shootout. I don't like their chances. I think they're good. I just don't think they're consistent enough to make a cup run like last year.
I mean, but the thing about the thing with Boston is they're going to play teams that are like definitely inferior to them, like in the first 2 rounds. So really, they're just going to have to beat Tampa.
It depends because
would they play Tampa round 2? Actually,
yeah,
no, they're reseeding, so they would probably play Tampa round 3.
It depends because remember that they're doing a round robin to determine the seeding, and if Bruce Cassidy is going to go with resting all the top players, they play Pittsburgh in round 1. Which would be really bad matchup for them.
Oh well, yeah. Well, didn't they not play Pittsburgh well this year, or is it the opposite? I know it was either they didn't play Pittsburgh well, or they played them really well.
But
I can't remember the exact.
Again, if I'm Boston,
looking through their schedule right now.
If I'm Boston, I want the 1 seed so that I play someone like Toronto again. Even though I feel like Toronto might win against them finally. You play Toronto or Columbus or Florida or Rangers or Montreal, like either one of those. Because I don't want to play I don't want to play Pittsburgh or Carolina. No. Those are the last 2 teams I want to play if I'm a top seed.
If you're a top seed, you definitely don't want to face those teams. I feel you on that, but at the same time, I just wouldn't want to play Carolina, and I wouldn't want to play. I don't think I would want to play the Flyers either. I feel like we're not.
Well, Flyers are like in the top 4, so that's not an issue.
Yeah, but I just mean, they're still kind of have this like because they're in the Metro and they like. I feel like the Flyers are not. They're like not really looked at as like legitimate cup contenders. That might just be me talking, but I feel like I don't think of them as that. But in reality, they could win the East.
Some people are really running with it because they had a hot streak. I think their hot streak was good. I just don't think they're on the same echelon as Boston, Tampa, or Washington.
Yeah, I think they might. I think they could push Washington, but I don't think they're better than the other 2 teams.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Even if I think Boston is kind of mid, I don't think. Well, kind of mid relative, but like they're good, but they're like not that good.
They're not that. I think in general with hockey this year there weren't that many like elite teams.
No.
So I'll take Boston and Colorado, and you've got Tampa.
I'm gonna take Tampa and Colorado, although that's subject to change. Mm-hmm. So anyone who's hearing this podcast, I know I'm in an analytics community for hockey. Don't take this at face value until I submit a bracket.
This is just spitballing, you know.
This is spitballing,
right? Which is good. And I think overall, the main message to me, the main takeaway, is that hockey has done this right, as opposed to some other sports, which is a shock to me, and I think a shock to a lot of sports fans because
it surprised me.
Hockey's been screwing things up for so long, you know, and it's like wow. Finally. Yeah. But yeah, good for hockey, sports during the coronavirus. We'll see how we'll see how things go with all these sports that are in the bubble, not in the bubble. We'll see how long these things last. We'll see how many more players in baseball test positive.
We'll see if how many more players in the NFL opt out.
Right, and we'll see how many Blue Lives Matter flags get thrown all over the stadiums. So, with that being said, Tristan, thanks for coming on, as always.
Oh, no worries.
Actually, not as always. First-time guest, I think. So we really
First-time
appreciate
guest. No worries.
First-time guest for a general sports episode, general sports and hockey episode.
Yeah.
Great conversation, and hopefully we'll be talking a lot more about sports because they'll be able to still exist in a few months.
Yeah, hopefully. That'd be nice.
That would be nice. So this is your this week's Living Off Borrowed Time podcast. Our outro music is Stagnated Pace by Cankick, and we hope you guys have a good weekend.
It ain't gonna never stop. 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 It ain't gonna never stop.
Time will tell. Time is yet to be conquered by man. But when the time is right, perhaps the greatest revelation of all time will dawn upon us.